Hello everyone, I'm Edian and I work at the Urban Planning Department of the Municipality of Tirana. It's really a pleasure to be here and to have this possibility to explain a little bit what we are doing in Tirana in terms of social housing. I will be more precisely presenting a law that passed at the national level 3 years ago, and then, or 4 years ago, and then 3 years ago, it also passed at the local level. So we approved it at our General Assembly, City General Assembly. We call it the 3% law. I'm going to make a very small, brief presentation about the social housing programs that we currently have at the municipality of Tirana. Okay, great. This 3% law is just one of the 4 programs that we have. We have housing bonus, which is one of the programs. It is being offered by the municipality, and this program subsidizes a large portion of housing rent for families whose income do not allow them to pay for rent themselves. We subsidize each year 200 to 250 families. And when I say a large amount, because it's important, we pay almost 85% of monthly rent, just leaving a small percentage, 15% tops, to the families, also to have them a little bit engaged in the process. We have social housing. We finished 4 years ago a complex of buildings with a total of 177 apartments that we started distributing to the families. There is another slide later on about this specific program. We have mortgage interest rate subsidy. This is very important, actually. Every year we subsidize at least 1,000 new couples, new families, families in difficulties with the subsidized mortgage. What it means is that, you need to meet some criteria, of course, but once your application gets approved, you only pay for your mortgage a fixed interest rate of 3% forever. If the mortgage percentage goes up, the market gets the mortgage percentage up, the municipality is paying everything. And it's very interesting, especially while we are talking. I think this has happened here, it has happened in Albania, it's happening everywhere in the world, that mortgage interests are rising. The banks, the central banks of each country, in order to fight inflation, are kind of rising a little bit the interest rates. And up to before the war in Ukraine, we had the mortgage interest normally in Albania at 3.84%. And once you have this kind of mechanism, it means that you are paying for yourself 3%, the municipality is paying 1%. And people were like, okay, it's okay, let's do it. But we saw that applications a little bit fell in numbers because 1% is not huge in terms of what you're getting as a mortgage. But now that the mortgage interest has already gone more than 5%, it is expected to go to 6-7% by the end or by the middle of next year, the interest is huge because it means that we are paying more interest that you are paying on your own mortgage. And we intend to keep the number in the range of 800 to 1,000 applications each year that we are subsidizing this mortgage. And then the final program is the 3% rule, which I'm gonna spend most of my time talking today. Very brief stop here. This is the house that we built. As I told you, 4 years ago, we finished this project, 177 apartments. And priority, while we choose the families that are going to occupy the apartments, the priority is given to single mothers with children, families with invalid members amongst them, and members of the Roma community. And, this example taught us something, some problems. After these houses were distributed, the program itself has some critics, has some problems. For example, we have noticed that all the ground floors of these buildings are empty. Of course, they are not part of the program, but our idea as a municipality was to have them constructed so that we could get some money out of this, renting them out, get some money, maybe use this money for the community to maintain the building or to add some extra amenities and stuff. It's not working. It's a fact. After 4 years, not a single space we have been able to rent out. Even though we have made calls, we have tried to lower the top monthly rent, it's not working. Probably because, and this is a huge debate that I think it's happening here, it's happening in Albania, it's happening everywhere, is that these neighborhoods tend to be, I'm not saying ghettos, because the quality of the buildings is not bad per se. It's not top quality, of course, it's not the purpose of the program, but it's normal quality. You find this kind of buildings everywhere in the country being sold at a normal rate. So, and we have seen that it is having problems. We have seen that these families are finding it difficult to pay monthly fees, for example. They're not paying their electricity bills. They're not paying their maintenance fees. Because the idea is that, and these fees, it's not like, they're not huge per se, but you cannot just give apartments to families and expect them to not contribute at all at the process. It creates some kind of laziness, I believe, and a lot of examples show that at least at a certain degree, families should provide for themselves, even their families in need, and you're already giving an almost free apartment, but they need to see it as a challenge too. So, and to go to the main thing that I'm here to talk about today, the 3% rule. It was approved in 2018, and this is by the Parliament of Albania. So it is the social housing law, and I've tried to get just the part that talks about the private sector contribution to the social housing in the country. Every developer that applies for a construction permit for buildings with more than 2,000 square meters of residential area gives, without any payment, at least 3% of this residential area in good and improper housing conditions to the public social housing fund. This area, if not possible to be given in the building that is going to be built, can be given in another residential building. For example, if this developer is at the same time developing 3 buildings in the city, he can choose where to give this area. It's up to him. The contract signed between the developers and the beneficiary of such area, that in all cases is the municipalities, in favor of the public social housing fund, is to be registered at the cadastral office. So as soon as the contract is signed, the municipality gets it to the cadastral office so that the developer cannot do any kind of trick with the property and stuff, which in very rare occasions, but does happen somehow. And then there is another point, which is not, I mean, for the point number 2, I'm going to mention it, but we don't have a program there yet because it's not implemented. If a developer applying for a construction permit for gaining purposes demands an increase of the floor area ratio, so he wants, for example, he wants to construct a little bit more, in compliance with the regulation and standards imposed by the general local plan of the city, for the municipalities that have an approved general local plan, this demand can be approved against a certain residential area to be given to the municipalities for the public social housing fund. This is not undergoing, but this is something that as a municipality we're kind of thinking of. It's a debate where we haven't gotten a decision there yet, but the law allows us to do it. It's like if you are to construct a 5-story building, and if you are interested to do 6-story building, we might allow it for you, but in order for us to get something. The thing is that it's not going to be 3% anymore. We are thinking of getting 35% of this extra, which is really a big benefit for the municipality, but there is because it has its pros and cons. I mean, it's a pro because you get a lot of space that you can use to the social housing fund, but then it means that buildings will start being a little bit higher in the city, it will have a higher density. In some areas you can do it, in some other areas you cannot do it because the density is already too high and you cannot densify even more. So we need to see this a little bit. Okay, and this is the next step. The municipality, 1 year later, took a decision, the City General Assembly, to approve this regulation. So from the national level, we go to a city level, and to have it, for it to be possible to be implemented. So I'm starting with the first example. This is a normal building that a certain developer applies for a construction permit at the municipality of Tirana. It's an 8-story building, not very huge, in an interesting location. The neighborhood is quite nice. And you see by the quality of the design, I mean, it's an interesting proposal, let's say. So, and this is the legal steps that how we get this surface. Maybe it's not very clear, but from what he's constructed, and these here are the data of this construction on the second slide, let's say. He is constructing more than 2,000 square meters of residential. So we are getting, for what he's constructed, we are getting 91.5 square meters of an apartment. And he has already stated, signed, which is the apartment that we are getting. We are on the apartment number 5 on the second floor with the required surface. This will become, once the building is finished, this will become part of the social housing fund. And this is the classical example. I mean, the developer wants to construct, he has more than 2,000 square meters, you do the math is easy, this is what you need to give to us. And in a lot of cases, already in their design stage, they already design an apartment that fits the amount, the square feet that we need to get. And also it makes sense in terms of being a functional space. It cannot just be some square meters that are not a house. The law is very clear. It needs to be in proper condition, normal housing conditions. This is the second, and this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. This is the second case. A small development in the outskirts of the city, made of villas. There are just 7 villas. And it already, the square meters being constructed are already more than 2,000. So this guy needs to give something, to give his part of the law. And you see the nice villas and stuff. Of course, as a municipality, it's not the purpose of the social housing fund to have villas and to start distributing villas to the people in need. It makes no sense. And also, what he needs to give based on what he is constructing is about 67.3 square meters. So at the municipality, when we approved this, I mean, the law was there, and then we took 1 year to do the detailing of the law. Like, you cannot get a 65 square meter in a villa complex. It makes no sense. Nobody is going, it's not even, for the families in need, it's not practical at all to go on the outskirts of the city and then think about transportation and stuff. So we gave the possibility of developers to pay this in cash upfront. Once they get the construction permit, in order to get the paper, the documentation, they need to pay this fee. And the fee goes directly to the social housing fund. The municipality cannot use it for anything else. No roads, no transportation, no salaries, nothing. Just for the fund itself. And in this case, for example, I made some calculations. We were supposed to get 67.3 square meter, and the LEC per square meter is like the price. The price that the government has already approved for the area. It's not very high, the area is a peripheral area. And we were we are getting 38,000 euros for this apartment. And this goes to the fund. The guy needs to pay this before getting the construction. The money is already there. You can start using it the next day without waiting 3 years for the construction to be finished. And I have to say that a lot of developers sometimes...
I have a question. Is
yeah.
the price, like during the construction
construction price. Construction price. No, but let me say it this way. Steel prices are not very high in Albania compared even to Belgrade. I know that here prices are a little bit out of the world. This is not the real price of the villa. And this is this is what we have made a request, because the price is done by the central government. What the central government does is, like, in the center of the city, the prices are higher, and then they start going lower and lower and lower. What we're saying is, this is the equivalent of about 550 euros per square meter. What we're saying is, nobody's selling villas at 500, they're selling them at 3,000. Yeah. When this map was done, it was 6 years ago, exactly 6 years ago. Nobody was constructing villas in this specific area. And now the construction boom and everything, they are constructing. The government needs to step up a little bit. If the government just doubles it or triples it, It means that we get more money for the same amount of square meters that we should have gotten. And this is underway. They're doing it. I mean, we know that we have the Ministry of Territorial Planning that is working on the new prices. The prices are a little bit outdated for the peripheria. We are having the same issues with our beach resorts. They're constructing these beautiful villas by the sea, and we call this reference price, the reference price of the government. And the reference prices are outdated, like totally outdated. I mean, market price sometimes is even 6 times bigger than the reference price. And this is hurting us to collect the money. We don't want to collect villas, it's not our purpose. But we want the reference price to be updated and to go closer to the reality. In some of the areas, this price does not exist anymore in Tirana, anywhere. It used to be valid in these peripheric areas with with medium developments, about 550, 600 euros per square meter, and this price has gone to 900 in the last 4 years, 5 years. This is not yet, but I mean, as a municipality, we know that this is not working, but we have no say because the prices are determined at a higher level. I know as a fact, because we've had meetings, they are working on this to have, because this price is not used just for this program, it's used for tax revenue, like property tax, etc., etc., etc. And they are updating it. But at the political level, there is, once in 4 years there are some elections, so they postpone it for another 4 years and stuff. So, normally, it should be updated every 4 years, but it hasn't been updated in 6 years.
Okay.
So it's already past due date. It should have been already updated. And the value would have been higher, at least double, in terms of money. And now I'm going to, and then we can, I mean, once I finish, we can start having it in a more conversation way. And then we have like really large developments. 7 buildings, 50,000 square meter of residential area. It's not like one of the best areas, but it's not one of the worst areas. It's a, let's say, normal residential neighborhood of Tirana. And in this case, I haven't signed it here, but as a municipality, we're getting 1,560 something square meter. And this is underway, it's not finished yet. Once it's finished, it means that through the 7 buildings, we have the opportunity to have at least 15 to 20 apartments, which is great. And this is one of the biggest developers in the country, Contact. And this is the project I was talking to you before. This company, they have already finished another project with the same dimensions. And 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I think, we got 22 apartments. It's interesting because the law was approved in 2018. The municipality made all the legal preparations in 2019. And that's where it entered into power. It means that all the new buildings after October 2019 need to comply with the law. And these are buildings that are finishing now. Normally a building takes about 3 years to be constructed, 2.5 years, 3 years. So this has been the moment when we are really seeing what's happening with the fund. So we have the social housing fund. We have 177 apartments already constructed years ago. But now it's increasing like really rapidly. You might see that the next month, the guy prepares the documentation for his final papers at the municipality, so he needs to give you the keys of these finished apartments. And in some projects, we get 1 apartment, 2 apartments. In this company gave us 3 months ago 22 apartments, which is, in my opinion, very, very good. Now, a little bit of a retrospective. The first time that I've heard of something similar doesn't have to do with Albania. I was a student in Italy in 2010, and we were visiting Stockholm. There is a specific neighborhood, Hammarby, and it was owned by the king. The king donated it to the city, and the city gave the possibility to developers to do it, and they were getting 35–40% of everything because they had the land. And it was the exact same idea. I was a student at the time, and the thing was, it was very important for the city to have in the same building every kind of different types of families to live together. It sounded a little bit utopic coming from Balkans, you know, you were like, yeah, these guys are ahead of us. I mean, yeah, we're talking about Nordic countries, etc., etc. But it was nice for me to see it happen in my country 10 years later. And I'm also working at the municipality, so I kind of see it on a daily basis. And well, I think this is, thanks a lot, this is the slides that I've prepared, but there are some considerations that I want to a little bit to explain. Of course, there are ups and downs. For example, one of the things that we are noticing now is, for example, there is one huge tower, 25 stories, about to finish. Maybe in 1 year it will be finished. The guy is giving us 981 square meters. Median price in the tower is 5,000 euros per square meter. Ultra luxury apartments, like done by Rem Koolhaas, I think, this famous Dutch architect. So very, very nice building. And we are in a very interesting position, like what do we do with this space? We still don't have an answer. Legally, we take it to the social housing fund. And then there is a procedure, a family gets appointed. The thing is that in this particular building, the assembly of the owners, the guys that are to become owners, have established that each apartment should pay at least 150 euros per month just in maintenance fees. So imagine the costs that you have as a municipality if you are to pay these costs. Our policy says that the families need to pay these costs, which makes no sense at all. In my opinion, it makes no sense at all. So, of course, we are getting the space because it's very valuable. Of course, it means a lot of money. The law doesn't allow us to sell it for now. And one of the discussions that's happening between our mayor and the central government is like, why don't you give us the possibility to sell it in open market, maybe even at 5,000 euros per square meter? The guy bids, and according to the bids, they sell. And with this money, which in this case might be 3 to 4 million euros, you don't just have 10 apartments. You can buy or construct maybe 30 or 40 apartments, because the issue is to have as much numbers as possible. It's not the issue to have the best apartment in the town to add to the fund. This is not the purpose of the fund itself. Legally, we cannot do it. So, and this is a little bit of a moment. Now, I want to be very sincere. In my opinion, and I talk as an architect, not just as a guy who works for the municipality, in the region that we live in, it's very difficult to give this kind of power to politicians. I'm sure half of the apartments might even start to go to people who apparently seem homeless but are not at all. So this can start to create problems. I wouldn't want the fund to start, and so that the politicians could start and use it for their own purpose. Because as I said, getting a 100 square meter apartment in this tower is a luxury like the very, very few of the country can afford. So I'm very skeptical. If you want my personal opinion, it's not the purpose of the municipality or of local authorities to have luxury properties. No, it's to have a large number of properties, and even maybe smaller units, but large number, so that you can satisfy all the demand that you have. But it's something that we don't have an answer yet. Another question that we are facing, because as I said, some of the developers have already paid their fee in cash. And we have a fund, the fund, even the cash. So we have the social housing fund, the physical fund, and then the bank account fund. What do we do with this money? This is why I showed you the first case of the social housing. The easiest way is we have land. Normally, the municipality has some plots of land, not a lot, but has some land that it owns, in which it could easily propose new projects with this money, fund the projects and have the apartments. But then it means that another 200 families all together in one complex of buildings, and a lot of issues that we have already faced. In the complex that we have, we know that these issues are already there. So one of the things that is being discussed, not decided yet, is to give the possibility to the municipality to go to the open market, to buy property. Because logically, you are in an advantageous moment. You have all of this money, cash, bank account, no bank, you don't need to get loan, nothing. You go to the best offer and you buy immediately. And our idea is that we might, we might be able to buy property even cheaper than the market. You pay the next day. I mean, you open a bid, you say, look, I'm going to need 10 apartments with this criteria. These guys will bid with each other, the lowest offer. Of course, all of them will meet the criteria, and then you go to the financial offer. And then you can have the possibility to have a certain number of houses spread across the city at very good prices, very interesting prices. It's something that is being discussed at technical and at a political level, because, as I said, for now the law doesn't allow this. You cannot, we are not allowed to buy property. And this has some reasons, which is not connected to the fund. If you give mayors in our countries possibility to buy property, you might expect everything. It's public money, so let's just use it. We need to be very careful. It needs the criteria needs to be very, very well implemented, because we're talking about a huge amount of money. I was making some calculations the other day with my colleagues, and normally, in a normal year in Tirana, we give construction permit of about 500,000 square meters. The 3% means 15,000 square meters per year. And almost half of this is paid in cash. So we have something like 4 to 5 million euros each year. The fund does already have more than 10 million euros, the bank fund. So we need to be very careful how to spend this money. And experience has shown that in a lot of cases we have not been so careful. So this is why they're kind of discussing it and working a little bit on it. But the general idea is this. I mean, ideally speaking, if you could get, in our case, 15,000 square meters per year, it means almost 200 apartments per year. And the number is amazing. In 10 years, you could have 2,000 apartments everywhere in the city. And this is a process that should never end. The law is there. Construction might go up and down no matter what, the law is there. And also, this is my final intervention. We were talking with Jovana before. When we imposed the law, the 3%, of course, we faced opposition from the developers. I mean, it's just some extra money that they need to go out of their pocket. They took us to court. The municipality and the central government. After 6 months, it was on hold. That's why there is also a gap between when it was approved at the government and when we approved it. And then the court decided in our favor. Of course, developers were a little bit angry with the situation. Why it's always us? Why are we the only ones to pay, for example? The strongest argument was that we are not the richest guys in the country. There are other businessmen here, not connected to construction, that make more money than us. Why don't they contribute to the social housing fund? Gas, petrol, communications, banks, a lot of stuff. Well, they cooled down. The court said, look, the law is there. Either you apply it or there's nothing you can do. What we have seen is that one of the reasons that they kind of cooled down, which is also an idea of how to be able to convince people that this is not the end of the world, you know? The 3%, in my opinion, and in some calculations that we have done, is paid by 3 actors, not by the developers themselves. Firstly, we have estimated that 1% is paid by landowners. The way how development is done in Albania is that most of developers don't own the land. They enter into an agreement with a landowner that you give me the land, I construct on top of it, you get 35% of what I construct. And after the approval of the law, these developers started to offering maybe 34% to the landowners with the idea that, look, we already have a lot of taxes from the government. We're paying 3% here and this and that. So please lower a little bit your expectations. And the landowners kind of accepted it. We see the contracts. Every construction permit comes with contracts. And we see that contracts tend to be a little bit lower, 1%, just 1%, not a lot. But we're talking about big square meters. And secondly, 1% is being paid by the buyers. It would be foolish to think that this doesn't increase the price a little bit. Of course, it increases the price a little bit. In a free market, every businessman what does is that delivers the costs to the final buyer. And we have seen that the prices have gone a little bit higher, maybe to cover the 1% of this 3%. So at the end, the developer is just paying 1%. It's not a very big deal. Even if you earn 1% less at the end of the year, it still makes sense for a business. So people now don't like, it was a big debate at the beginning, but now it's just going on. We see papers coming, the guy just assigns 22 apartments, just gives them away because he has made the calculations, it's okay, he can still win, he can still make his gain, and everyone is happy. The municipality kind of, now we are on the other side of the fence. We are interested into giving construction permits to these guys because we not just get the tax, the construction tax, but we get also something else to add to the fund. Even at the political, let's say, let's take it from a political perspective, the mayor gets out quite interestingly from this when he starts delivering keys to families before the other elections. I'm not a politician, but that's how it works. So he is interested in these things to go. And this has kind of helped. For example, if before, I don't know how difficult it is to get a construction permit here, but in Albania it is. It's the biggest business in the country, so you need to be well connected, to know the right guys and stuff. Now it's kind of less. So the market is kind of a little bit, the prices tended to be higher just for this, because the tough guys could get a construction permit. No, now the mayor has his own interest to give construction because he gets this, and then it means political advantage at the next stage. So it's kind of helped a little bit the whole thing. Of course, as I said, it would be foolish to think that this doesn't increase the prices. But the thing is that it increases the prices just a little bit. When you buy at 1,500 euros or 2,000 euros per square meter, which is a little bit above the average market in Albania, in Tirana right now, if you add up 30 euros to it, it doesn't change a lot, actually. At the end, you are quite there. But you kind of know that you have contributed to the creation of the fund as a buyer. You have this knowledge that you have contributed to the creation of the fund as a developer, and you have the knowledge that you have contributed to the creation of the fund as a landowner. So everybody is contributing a little bit. And I know that the government is kind of thinking how to apply this to those other businesses, the big guys that are not paying anything yet. But we have not gone there yet. I don't know how they're thinking of doing it. I know that they're under discussions. The ministry is working on a new law. Let's see how that goes. Okay, thank you very much.